Bill, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
We're live. What's the ringback tone?
It's ever since I went to Mexico, that was installed by good old AT&T. So I don't know. It's a good icebreaker. It's a good icebreaker.
We've listened to it 3 times now.
I didn't know if it was generic.
Really didn't want you to answer.
No, we didn't.
Billy, have you ever heard of Gabriel Davis?
Not until last night, but I hear he's kind of a big deal.
I mean,
Crystal balling.
So, because Billy covers a little NFL stuff for the Washington football team as well. So, even names like that who have covered the league. I was watching this guy last night being like, amazing the impact he was having on the game. But it also was telling that Tyrann Mathieu, the safety for the Kansas City Chiefs, was knocked out early, and they were very vulnerable over the middle of the field. Before we get to recruiting weekend and everything that's going on with LSU this past weekend with Brian Kelly, are you surprised to see the success that Burrow has had? That's probably a loaded question because I don't think anybody is surprised to see the success. But, this fast, Billy, he's got a chance to put the Bengals in the Super Bowl. Did you ever anticipate that this could happen in year 2?
Man, I think Joe Burrow always impressed me with just not only his maturity, his leadership, and all that, but just his swagger. And I know that's kind of obvious after talking with LSU people, but that's kind of where it stands out for me, and it's translated so well to the NFL. And I don't want to go ahead and year 2 compare him to like a Brady, but that kind of moxie, that kind of swagger, that's kind of what it reminds me of. And he's fiery, he's passionate, but he's also really calm and collected when everything's kind of, could be a little helter-skelter around him. And I think all the physical tools have been there. You wondered how he was going to bounce back from the ACL just physically, but you knew he'd put everything into rehab. But, this is unbelievable. And all the people, and they do need offensive line help, don't get me wrong, but all the people questioning the Jamar Chase pickup, they look like they're going to be what Peyton Manning and Marvin Harrison were to the NFL for years to come if they keep those two together for their careers. So it's just unbelievable watching him do what he's done so far this season.
Same question on Jamar. You covered him at Rummel, you covered him at LSU, and now you see him 1 year in the league. He clocked the fastest time of any NFL player yesterday on that screen route where he beat Fulton down the sidelines. We've always known he was dynamic watching him at Rummel, but to see him having the impact on the elite level like he is so soon, what is your reaction to that?
Yeah, another one where people were kind of, a little skeptical on after the preseason or whatever. I don't think Jamar Chase forgot how to catch football, and he showed that this year. But his competitiveness, that's really what I think is putting him, into that elite level right off the bat in his career. And it's the same with Justin Jefferson and quite honestly, Devontae Smith too. Sorry to bring that, an Alabama player into this too, but it really is what separates those guys from the rest in terms of their trajectories is how hard they work at their craft and being able to get off press, being able to get open on top of their physical skills. And Jamar is always, in a way, kind of felt a little disrespected here or there. You looked at him going into his senior year, and all the talk was always about Terrace Marshall going into that recruiting class. And Jamar Chase really exploded in that offseason and became a 5-star prospect and ended up being the number 1 player in Louisiana. And that he's just always had that motivation to him, and on top of the physical traits, like I mentioned. And, after his freshman year at LSU, he played and he got in some games and did some good things, but, he exploded in that 2019 season. And I think, again, another kind of motivation was that freshman year. And then, obviously, he just spent his entire offseason and opt-out year working to be at that elite level and to show people that taking a year off was, the right move for him long term. And it's just always been that competitive nature to him. And I think that's why he's a ball winner. I think that's why he's going to be one of the best receivers for years to come.
Before we talk about some of the recruitable athletes out of high school, one transfer portal guy that has gotten a lot of attention is the Shreveport native, Jarrick Converse, who has entered the portal, and it seems like he is a defensive back from Oklahoma State, and has been trending towards LSU. What is the latest on Converse?
Yeah, he's an all Big 12 academic selection in 2020. I mean, an all Big 12 performer overall. And he was on campus for a quick little visit this weekend. I think he's somebody that LSU is pressing for, and rightfully so. He's got 46 starts under his belt. He's been productive, and he's just kind of the latest Louisiana prospect, or former Louisiana prospect. They're going all in on to come to LSU and finish out their career. And he's a position of need at cornerback. So I'm hearing really good things about where LSU stands for him. He sits at 6'1", 200 pounds, so he's got some size to him as well. Greg Brooks is a little undersized, so to speak, to play outside. Mekhi Garner's a bigger body at 6'2", 210. But adding Jarrick Bernard-Converse, that would be a huge pickup. I like where LSU stands a lot, and they're trying, I think, to get him into school pretty quickly here with the deadline to enroll in classes coming up.
There has been an emphasis on putting Louisiana kids inside of LSU's locker room. Have you gotten the idea in talking to some of these prospects that will restore almost the pride of the program immediately, if that's what Frank Wilson and Brian Kelly are setting out to do and bringing these guys in, the local guys in?
I think it makes a lot of sense, the ones that they're bringing in. And there's something to be said for that too. And as they prioritize Louisiana in recruiting, of course, and they'll go national on that front, I think shoring up the roster, you have so much information on these Louisiana prospects and now college players that they're targeting in the transfer portal. A lot of coaches, either knew them as prospects, know their family, know their high school coaches, and so that can put them into position to land them out of the portal, which is a plus, of course. But also, I mean, just having those guys that are motivated, good culture fit. I think that's what the roster needs. They're thin, or they were thin, I should say, at a lot of different spots. And it makes sense to add guys that have a lot of college experience, but also really want to play for LSU and wear the purple and gold, which is not lost, I think, on Brian Kelly and his staff. And that's why you've seen it be such a Louisiana heavy push for a lot of these transfers. And it makes a lot of sense, and I think most colleges that do it this way see it paying off, quite honestly.
One more out of the portal, Caleb Williams. This is not true, right?
Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is going to end up at USC. I quite honestly just have checked around on it just because of the report that came out, but LSU, of course, kicked the tires, but all indications are Caleb Williams is going to end up at USC from what I've heard.
And then coming to this weekend, Trevante Citizen was the big fish that everybody was paying attention to. Southwest Louisiana running back at one point was committed to the Tigers, but it looks like Cadillac Williams and Auburn have done a tremendous job of recruiting him during this cycle. It's a couple of weeks to signing day. Where does LSU sit with Citizen after having him on campus officially?
I think they made a big move. And I think they were starting to gain momentum going into the trip. But Trevante is kind of he needs the relationships. He needs the trust. And that's where I think LSU made a really good move here. And the staff that stayed on during the coaching transition did a good job talking with him and continuing to keep him feeling like a priority. And then, Frank Wilson comes in and one of the first guys he went and saw was Trevante Citizen and started building that relationship. Cadillac Williams, like you said, has done a good job with Auburn. But I like where LSU stands here a lot after the weekend. I think a lot of the questions he had maybe were answered. And it was a weekend that I would say was probably a little bit of an eye-opener for him, getting a chance to be around Brian Kelly and his staff, see what the plan is for him. He met President Tate, which is, shows how much of a priority he is for the staff. I think Frank Wilson did a really good job. I think right now LSU sits in the driver's seat.
You mentioned Frank Wilson a couple of times. How big of an impact has he made already? How clutch was that for Brian Kelly to get him back to LSU's campus?
They're really clutch. And I think not only from his, ability to recruit, but just his ability to add credibility to what Brian Kelly's message might be. It's one thing and we've kind of heard all the outsider stuff, but Brian Kelly coming in as a new face to the SEC, to Louisiana, having somebody like Frank Wilson, Cortez Hankton, Brad Davis, a lot of those guys on staff saying this is a guy you should want to play for. This is a program that you're going to want to be a part of. I think it'll just really, really help them on the recruiting trail. It'll help them once they get the players on campus and with the current players they have. It was a really big deal to get Frank Wilson to come on in. And again, I mean, he's a veteran coach. He's been a head coach. It makes so much sense for them to have him here, and it's really working out well so far.
It was Trevante Citizen and a bunch of guys in the future of 2023, including Jaden Alsbury, the linebacker from University High, who looks like he's going to be a 5-star during his recruiting cycle. How did the weekend work for Alsbury?
Yeah, Jaden stopped by for a quick visit and got a chance to do the photo shoot, meet the coaching staff and really start to build that relationship. I think Jaden, even, during the early goings of his junior year, was probably a guy you circled as potentially going out of state. And, he's kind of, been enamored with the likes of Notre Dame, Ohio State, honestly, some of those schools up north. And I still think those are going to be factors in the recruitment for sure. And it's going to be a battle. I mean, he's one of the top linebackers in the country, really, really good, projectable player that as he adds weight, he's going to be a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously, the LSU ties are there. I don't think LSU just had enough time to overcome coming in late with a new staff to land Austin Osbury, but I think with a full year really to recruit Jay Osbury, they'll have a good shot. And this weekend was a really good start for him to come through campus and see what the new staff is like and start building those relationships. It's going to be a battle, but they did make a really good impression this weekend.
Jakeem Stewart is a 8th grader defensive lineman in New Orleans that is 6'7", 275 pounds.
That's amazing.
He is leaving his New Orleans school after this year, and he is going to IMG Academy starting as a freshman. Rarely do you see the athlete that IMG Academy takes from their freshman season on. We've seen guys come in and get cherry-picked during their junior year, their senior season. But what do you know about Stewart? I know LSU was very early to offer this enormous underclassman. What do you know about this kid? This is kind of the crazy part of recruiting where you can sometimes get an 8th grader or a 7th grader to get an offer, and you have to follow this guy for 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, you're exactly right. And quite honestly, I met Jakeem in the spring when he went through the Under Armour regional in Dallas, and he was already playing with the big boys, so to speak. But he's certainly a guy that looks like he belongs with the big boys. I think this is a good early offer. Somebody who's going to leave the state of Louisiana. It sounds like play high school football for IMG. And, they can get in there, start recruiting him. They can't really do much right now just because of how young he is, but he's got the offer. He picked up Texas A&M over the weekend as well when he took unofficial visits over there. This one's obviously got a long way to go, but he's a big body. He's looking like he's going to play defensive line. Who knows? He could, flip over to the offensive side of the ball too. I mean, he's got some versatility to him since he hasn't started playing high school football just yet. They might take him down at IMG and work with him and see where his best fit is. But a really good early offer for the class of 2026.
Wow, Billy Embody,
Wow.
who is covering
2026
recruiting. That is wild.
That is wild.
Gonna give him cryptocurrency at Texas A&M, dude.
Billy Embody, who is covering recruiting, of course, for On3 Sports. Make sure you're covering or following On3 at On3 Sports, who covers recruiting and is really transitioning into the best in the game here pretty quickly. Billy, Kyron Lacy's visit over the weekend. You knew that LSU had the letter of intent, the commitment, but he and his family go through the photo op, and I thought that was kind of the winners of the weekend. His younger brother in full gear going around the photo op that is dressed in he can't be 5 or 6 years old, and he's got shoulder pads, helmet on with the visor, full leg. It is a incredible picture. What have you heard about Lacy, how he's going to affect the offense, and anything from this weekend?
Yeah, with Lacy, he's a big body, and you've got Brian Thomas on campus, but get Kyron Lacy into that room, a guy who's played college football and done fairly well in his opportunities. He's displayed some explosiveness. Like I said, he's got that big body that LSU needs in this offense and needed to add depth in that respect, as you lost guys like Devontae Lee, who's kind of a depth guy. But I expect Kyron Lacy to make a move and probably push to start right off the bat. I think that highly of him. He's somebody that is one of the best transfer wide receivers in the country. And again, another Louisiana player who decided to make the move to LSU this offseason. I'm expecting big things from Kyron Lacy, and he's going to do well at LSU, I think.
Bill, have a great weekend, or have a great week. We will talk to you. We'll talk to you soon with National Signing Day on the horizon. We appreciate the information this morning.
Can we offer 88
Sounds
and 3
good, guys.
with Lacy? Can we get both brothers right now? Look at
He's
these
a real
kids.
person.
Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at these dudes, man. I mean,
2034?
Oh my gosh.
I mean, the younger one looks like a player. All right, Bill. See you, man.
Look at his little legs.
Sounds good, guys.
Look
Thanks
at
for
that.
having me.
How good is that?
Awesome, dude. It's
Look
unbelievable.
what he gets the football. Look how he holds his
palms
football,
it,
bro. He
dude.
palms
He
it.
palms it. He's raised a 5-star.
I mean,
That is so
That's amazing.
cute. Oh my goodness.
can't believe he can't. I can't believe he can hold the helmet up. I guess it's resting on the shoulder
I
pads.
know.
Look how big his pecs are.
That's so cute.
Is that great?
Yeah.
All right, good stuff from Billy Embody.